Okay, now today we're going to talk about the first action that the government has to take to solve our housing crisis. And this is a relatively simple thing to do, but it's very important. And that is they have to declare a housing emergency. And I don't mean just declaring it. I mean the government has to take responsibility for solving the problem. Not excuses, not we tried, take responsibility. Do it or resign. We're not going to take anything less than that. We've got to be tired of 60, 70 years of all kinds of promises, all kinds of programs, and absolute failure. Okay? They have to be responsible. Every politician has to be responsible. Every county mayor, every representative, every senator, every city councilman, they have to be responsible. If they can't solve the problem, don't stay in office, resign. Let us put someone else in. That's how critical this is going to become over the next 5 or 10 years. We're letting our market slip away from us. We're letting our people being forced to move to the mainland. And it's our local guys who are suffering because of the inaction or the failure of our government to respond. So the first thing is to declare that emergency. The next two steps are relatively easy, and I've lumped them into one. And I'm going to talk, there's the two steps are Section 8 and Hawaiian Homes. In this segment, I'm going to talk about Section 8. The next segment, I'll talk about Hawaiian Homes. Now, Section 8 becomes important in the solution because that's a program that's a rental subsidy program. But back in the 1980s, when I was testifying at the legislature, one of the state senators, I think it was Senator Crozier, was fascinated with what I had said. And I basically said, Section 8 is a program for the wealthy. We use our poor as a funnel through which all of the rents and subsidies flow to the wealthy building owner. And I says, why don't we structure a program where Section 8 is an ownership program, where all of the wealth and all the benefits flow to the tenant? And that tenant now can buy a property. I says, the beauty is the present Section 8, they stay on the program their lifetime. If they use it to buy, they'll pay off their loan in 15, 20, 30 years. They're off of Section 8. They own a property. They're successful. Their life has changed. They've probably done better in terms of education and jobs and everything else. So that was what I mentioned. Senator Crozier loved the idea and came to me and said, Peter, we want to talk to Senator Inouye to see if he could do this. He just thinks it's a brilliant idea. So he talked to the senator, and the senator liked it. So he went ahead, and I guess, and asked my permission. I said, yeah, go ahead and try. Well, 5 years later, Senator Crozier calls me and says, hey, Peter, it passed. And I'm kind of like, okay, what passed? I didn't have a clue what he was talking about. I'd forgotten the conversation. And he says, your idea for Section 8 passed. The government made it an ownership program. They can use it to buy real estate. I said, whoa, that's fantastic. Did they approve the financing to go with it? Typical of the government, they approve the concept, but then they don't give the vehicle to make it happen. So they didn't approve the financing. Instead, what they said is the federal government will guarantee the Section 8 payment. I think it was for 15 years, and the bank should be willing to accept that. Well, in theory, it sounds great, but banks aren't going to really accept that. They're going to be, well, these people have bad credit, they don't have any cash, or all kinds of reasons not to do the deal. So we had a great program. We could have helped thousands and thousands of local residents buy under Section 8, but nobody did anything. So the first thing we do is we should use those government funds to help solve our housing crisis. So all of the tenants in Section 8 who have the voucher program, we should immediately help them buy real estate. And that means we may have to help them with the financing. We may have to build projects special for them. Doesn't matter. They're going to buy, and we'll lock in those programs or those units to where they'll always be affordable, and we'll discuss that later. The key is we don't necessarily have to use state money to fund the whole program. We only have to get the program started, design the program for Section 8 tenants to be able to buy using their federal subsidy. Then the art is to go back to the federal government and say, we want more Section 8, because if there's one thing we can use in Hawaii, it's more Section 8. And Section 8 is a great government program because it helps working families earn or subsidize the cost of housing. And it's a realization that people at the bottom of the market may have a job and earn $2,000 or $3,000 a month, but they can't afford to pay the rent because we're in a low-income area with high prices and high rents. So all it does is say 1/3 of your income goes to rent, and then the balance the government will pay. So Section 8 is a good program. They're people that we can now put into ownership. But more important, they're the people at the bottom of the market. They're the people that would be the most difficult to put into housing. And if we can use the federal guarantee to do that, for us in Hawaii, it's a wonderful deal. So we're kind of working from the bottom up in that model. The programs for the market units, the program for the middle class, we're going to discuss those in a couple more of these sessions. But right now, we're just talking about the government making the commitment, the state and county governments making the commitment. And one of the first things is to structure programs to help the Section 8 tenants become homeowners. The next video, we're going to talk about the other first step, which is the Hawaiian Homes program and how we can use that to also help convert our market to a local market. Thank you for listening again, and we'll be back shortly.